Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry. We did it.
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Good morning. Welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick. Josh, how are you today?
Oh, Paul, feeling fresh as a daisy, as mentioned numerous amount of times on the Triple S this morning. So feeling good,
living the dream, and fresh as a daisy. I think I associate both of those with you, Josh.
Yeah, amped up to talk about the trade deadline.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was entertaining. It was entertaining. We also have our other special guest, Manesh. Welcome this morning. Great to have you here.
Thank you. So it's I love being here. Obviously, talking basketball, Paul, such a great honor. Obviously, on this beautiful Saturday morning, weather's gotten a little bit warmer, easier to wake up, look outside the window. Not that much sunlight. It's a little gloomy outside.
Is it?
It is.
But are you gloomy inside? That's my big question.
Love this time of year. We got
Sunshine.
The Olympics. We got NBA happening. We got football happening. We got storylines in sports happening all over the world, and it's like this is the best time to be alive.
It is. Totally agree. It's such a dynamic time. It was such an interesting week. I thought about how do you describe the trade deadline this year, and I think that's the best word I could come up with is interesting, because the blockbusters that I think a lot of people focused way too much time and energy on didn't happen, but it sets up what will happen in the future, and there's certainly a lot of interesting post-trade deadline conversation about why Giannis is still a Buck and Ja Morant is still a Grizzly. So we're going to delve into that today. We have a great show lined up after the first segment where we go 3 from deep plus 1 today. We have Doug McLean on. Doug is going to be our community champion, and Doug has guest hosted the show. I have worked closely with Doug for many, many years. Have the privilege of working with Doug because he's such a pro at game broadcasting with the Edmonton Stingers. He, along with Mark Migeau, are also the voice of the Pandas and the Bears, both in football and basketball. Doug does a lot of international broadcasting. But the reason I selected Doug as our community champion is because what he's done in the local sports community, not just behind the microphone, but in his work as a consultant, helping organizations clarify their mission and vision. And he's done a lot of work for local sports organizations and helped them to become more effective, along with being a player himself and coaching in the community. So we'll have Doug on in our second and third segments. But why don't we jump right into what our poll question is today, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So our poll question today, if you want to vote on it, you can go to our X account at Hoop City Show. All one word, you'll find us. Poll question today, who improved the most due to the trades made? Your options are the Celtics, the Cavaliers, the Timberwolves, or the Jazz. Where do you come out on this, Paul?
Well, Paul is, and he's a little biased.
I'm aware he's a Timberwolves fan.
Yeah. Do you think he's upset that they didn't get Giannis? Because they look like they were trying
I don't know.
to do
Why don't you
everything.
ask him? Don't ask me.
Fair.
No, I don't know if they're upset. Maybe I think that the Wolves, along with a number of other franchises, have plans in the offseason. But I think also, to me, a lot of NBA franchises right now are going through an existential crisis. What is a trade anymore? Like, what do you really want to accomplish with a trade? And it seems to me that the pattern that emerged from the trades this year, Manesh and Josh, was that it's more surgical. It's less blow it up and bring in the big guy and we're going to turn things around with superstar. Giannis is hurt all the time. Ja is hurt all the time, and he's a head case. So, I think it's going to be real interesting in the offseason what happens with Giannis. I love Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think he is, he's certainly a Hall of Famer. But would I take a lot of assets, particularly young assets, or throw a ton of draft picks to get him? It'd have to be the exact right situation. So, no, I'm not heartbroken. From what I've heard from my contacts down in the Twin Cities, the Wolves aren't heartbroken either. They made their pitch. It didn't get accepted. And I think what they got, they feel better about. And you know what? They need them because they turn around and lay an egg last night against a woeful Pelicans team at home with their best players playing pretty well. So the Wolves need some help to be, I think, a serious contender to get back at least to the Western Conference Finals this year.
Do you think they have it in them?
Well, Mike Conley's coming back.
Yeah,
so,
that I was about to say.
Yeah. You know what? Do I think the Wolves have it in them? Yeah,
this year.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do, especially now with DeSumo coming in. I think that if I could use that term surgical again, I would use that term and say that's a good surgical acquisition. Big, long, athletic. What they haven't had, it takes DiVincenzo out of a primary starting spot, which he really isn't suited for, to be a guy that you can rely on night in and night out to give you a certain amount of offense, because he's the kind of guy who'll give you 22 one night and the next 4 nights give you 6 to 8. So he's just not that kind of player. Tough, hard-nosed, great bench player. And that lack of depth, I think, is where the Wolves are the most vulnerable. So I don't want to just focus on them, though. I think the best acquisition, and I watched it last night myself, the most intriguing, there's 2 intriguing acquisitions, the Cavs and the Jazz. And by the way, Ben Golliver and I really go into depth, particularly on the Cavs. Jazz I like just because it's so weird.
It is
Jackson
so weird.
Jr. going to the Utah Jazz just as a weird pick. But I think the team that really won are the Celtics.
I agree.
Watching him last night, Vucevic is a beautiful fit. He does exactly what they need. He sets tremendous screens. His old school slips to the basket, his ability to finish around the rim, 11 points, 12 boards, 4 assists, plugs up the middle, good rim protector, depth at a position where they're weak at. They have surprised everybody, I think, with their performance this year. There's still the rumblings that Tatum might come back. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, to see Jason Tatum in the playoffs, but I think the Celtics were the big winner myself.
Interesting.
And on that note, though, I just want, what are the Chicago Bulls thinking now and for the long term making these types of moves?
Because I draft 14 Nikola Jokic's. What are we talking about here?
Right? Doesn't that seem like the only way out of this kind of cycle that they've been in? Because I thought some of the trades, again, I thought the Celtics made an incredible trade with getting Vucevic, but I don't know if it makes sense for the Bulls. And I guess I'm not seeing it in the same way because I felt like they'd waited too long to trade Vucevic. I think they'd waited too long to trade Kobe White,
who is now being traded for one less second-round pick, by the way, because he failed his physical. So it got amended to get now two second-round picks.
So it's like, right, some of the decisions I feel like that they have made, does this actually set you up for success? Obviously not now, but in the next 2-3 years. And I just haven't seen it that way. And this feels, again, one of those moves in the East where the East is gettable. And you would think that more teams would be wanting to be in a position where you have a win now window. And that's what the Cavs did. That's why I think I'm going to lean that way.
And you know what? To me, it's real close because I think there's a strong case to be made for James Harden being the most impactful acquisition in this trade.
Yeah, tough to agree. Like if I was voting just based off the poll, I would say Cavs. But honestly, I think the best move made of the entire time was the Indiana Pacers getting Ivica Zubac.
I think you know what? That's a longer term call, but I think you could end up being right.
That was
about that. That's a big acquisition. That's a big move. I know the Pacers have been woeful this year, but if Halliburton comes back and he is the Tyrese Halliburton he was with this acquisition with Zubac there, that could be a difference maker.
Yeah, and they got off Benedict Mathurin, who they knew they weren't extending, so they get rid of him.
Mathurin's an acquired taste. Like for me, I like I know he's Canadian. Yay. But I think, you got to look at the inconsistency. The thing about him that drives me nuts is, again, you just don't know what you're going to get night in and night out. And he's young, and he's got a tremendous upside. So I think it's a great move for everybody to solidify the middle and give somebody else the project I think that's a great move.
You replace Miles Turner with someone that is better than Miles Turner.
Oh, I know.
And you
Miles
get rid of a
Turner's
guy
so
who,
overrated.
again, is in that same vein as DeSomu, as you said. And like, it was just a winning move, and it was a small one. They didn't have to give up that much. The pick that they gave up is top 4 protected, and then like top 10 to 30. So if they land anywhere in that 5 to 9 range, then the Clippers get the first round pick this year. But I don't think they will. I think they're going to end up with a top 3 pick or whatever. And this is just such a unique situation for the Pacers. Like, this couldn't work out any better for them because this is a loaded draft, as you've talked about with our NCAA guests. Is like, there's a lot coming into the NBA this year.
100%.
So they're going to be poised to make another run. And if you get a guy that is as good as Tyrese Halliburton, or will be as good as Tyrese Halliburton by the time of the end of the season, like, I don't see why the Pacers wouldn't be a first seed and someone that, again, could challenge the Goliath that is the Oklahoma City Thunder when they probably meet up again in 2 years.
Now you're ahead of yourself, Josh.
I agree. But like,
Yeah,
this is a big trade.
that would be a great prediction for somebody that lived in Indianapolis. That, to me, is a perfect prediction.
Oh yeah.
The sun's going to shine bright again. But you're right, and it could be because they did surprise everybody last year. Manish, you look like you have something you want to say.
Well, I just don't. I like the move from the Pacers' perspective, but again, like, it's one of those things. Like, why is this being made now? I just don't love the move for them in this current time or for the next couple of years. I think you want to hold on to your picks, and that's just because I think that you have a real chance with the core that you have to build from the draft and continue to get better instead of bringing in talent from outside. Now, I will say the center market is dry. Zoo and at the top of it.
You just
Right.
you just presented the answer. You're right. Everything you said leading up to it was correct. But the bottom line is there are very few good centers, and if there's a huge amount of versatile talent in the draft, there's not a lot of talent in this as pure centers, post players who can play defense, protect the rim, and step outside and score inside. That's where the draft is a bit weak.
And I think if you are in the Western Conference, you're happy that Zoo's out.
100%.
Because he was one of those players that played well against Gobert, played well against
Yes, he did. He did
LP
really well.
in Houston. He played well against the Joker. So it's like, you're happy that he's out because he presented some problems, especially for the Lakers as well, right? Like, he just did a number on DeAndre Ayton, which, by the way, is kind of
That's
happening.
not saying.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of happening a lot
Gee,
more
that
often.
never happens.
Yeah, it's kind of happening a lot more, which a
Yeah.
lot of people did predict. But going back to the Cavs just for a second, I think that was the move that they needed to make, because the Garland and Donovan Mitchell thing, we'd
We-
already seen that story before with CJ and Dame Lillard. It doesn't work because you don't have enough perimeter defense, right? And I just felt,
Oh yeah.
Well, you're
and
not gonna
James
get that
Harden
with
fixes
Harden.
perimeter defense.
yeah, but James Harden, like,
He's
savvy with his defense. The older he's gotten, I think that, like, his
so is savvy mean that you I'm not sure.
like, he doesn't have to play this, like, he doesn't have to play like technique sound, but he's good with his hands. He gets a lot of deflections. And then you have a defensive player of the year behind him now, right? Like, it's like they had to make this because of those decisions as well.
I agree with everything you said, except about anything relating to Harden's defense. The thing he does do, he reminds me when I coached little kids, what you used to call mini boys under 11, we had a lot of guys that floated in the lane and would get deflections because kids weren't very sound fundamentally. That's how James Harden plays defense now. He is, by metrics, the slowest defender in the NBA, like by the metrics. And I'm not a metrics guy, but I thought that was one that jumped out at me. But what he does do with having the defensive player of the year behind him, I agree. But the thing he brings is that ability to find players in the spots that they need to get the ball in and get them the ball at the right time in the right spot. And that didn't happen with Garland.
Is he going to be a better defender than Darius Garland, though?
No,
I think so.
No,
But that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That doesn't matter. That's not the point. He is not there for his defense.
Yeah, he's there to also, like, I don't know who's going to be happier for the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell, that he doesn't have to score all the time and play point guard and be that player who is kind of not what his position and where
Again,
he's
he was only
excelled.
playing point guard though because Darius Garland was hurt.
Right, that's what I mean. So like, I think he's going to be very, very happy with the James Harden thing. But I think it's the bigs, right? Like James Harden,
he's going to make them better.
Right, every place he's been, the one thing you can count on is that the bigs are going to play exceptionally better, and hopefully that is the case, and we can kind of see the Cavs make a run. But it's going to be tough. I mean, that top of the East is still looking really good. I mean, the Detroit Pistons yesterday.
Yeah, there's an asterisk because the Knicks were so hurt with Anunoby and Towns out. But yeah, that was a statement game. But I think, a couple of times a year you're going to get blown out. This was the next time. Is it a sign of something more systemic or a weakness? I don't know. I'm not a buyer on the Knicks in terms of being the best in the East. Ben Golliver is, but I'm not. I'm not a buyer on the Celtics yet. I'm not sure who. I'm curious to see how things unfold with the Cavs. Oh, by the way, I want to run with this just for a second. I do want to run the NBA legend request again. What NBA legend do you want us to talk about in the last segment of the show today? So you got to send it into our 1-833-401-1440 line. 833-401-1440. Text us with who you want to see. Last week, I didn't realize Cale Schofield was the winner, and Cale is the on-court voice of the Edmonton Stingers.
Oh, nice.
He's worth the price of admission anytime just to get there. So, Cale, thanks so much. I didn't realize it was you. Hope you got your T-shirt. If you didn't, let me know next week. But I think like last night, for instance, just seeing some of the early returns on the trades. I watched the Celtics on a major comeback. They were down 21 at half, came back 1-2 over the Miami Heat. Zubac, like I said, nice fit, had good play from Pritchard, from, of course, Jaylen Brown. Nick slapped by the Pistons, like you mentioned, Manish. And then also I fell asleep watching the Clippers and the Kings. It was just absolutely dreadful. Hard to recognize anybody, and the names that you recognize aren't very good, with the exception of Kawhi Leonard. So, but I do, before we get to Doug, okay, Manesh, you got something?
I was just going to ask, what constitutes as a legend that we're going to talk about?
Not playing in the league.
No, that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Not playing in the league anymore.
Just for everybody that's texting in, just wanted to, okay.
Yeah. We had Steph Curry. We made it. We did the Steph Curry.
Yeah.
But that we are going to an ex-NBA player who you regard as a legend, and maybe not as a legend for the reason of being one of the greatest ever, but contributing in a unique way. And we talked about Charles Barkley last week. I mean, he's a legend, but he contributed to the league and continues to contribute to the league in a very unique way. I don't send out many X posts, but I did send out one this week. I was so intrigued because I saw highlights of Shaq against David Robinson. And my title of the when the bigs roamed the court, because when you watch the highlights of these two guys playing, it looks like from a different planet than the league that you see today. Like these two guys, and then you can always hear, they couldn't play today. It's small ball. Bull crap. Absolutely could and would dominate and would be very effective in the league today. So look forward. Again, 833-401-1440. So I wanted to make one comment about what you were saying, Manesh, about Chicago. I had a good line. I do a blog every week, and I sent it out late this week because of the trade deadline. But I thought I had a good comment on the Bulls. They have more guards than King Charles has at Buckingham Palace, because you've got like two big guys, one of which is hurt, and the rest are a bunch of 6'3", 6'4" guards.
Yeah.
To your point, I don't know that they have a plan in Chicago other than they're doing stuff. It seems like it seems like an impulsive style, certainly not a methodology. Now, out of it, if they're able to trade some of these pieces, which, by the way, are underwhelming in some cases, then it'll be interesting to see whether or not they're able to bring in some bigger, longer, more athletic, more versatile players. but it just seems they're so committed to change that it strikes me that Chicago is making change for the sake of making change.
And everybody talking about, getting draft picks and acquiring capital in the draft and things like that. You have to hit on those draft picks for you to ever be good. I don't think people quite understand that is not something that continuously happens in the NBA.
But this, and we'll go to break after this, and we'll do the 3+1 in the last segment, Josh.
Works for me.
But the NBA, it's OKC's good. Everybody tries to be like OKC. 30 years ago, a European player is good. Everybody drafts Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant are good coming out of high school. Everybody drafts high school kids. How many other high school kids other than Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett came directly from high school? Moses Malone before, but he went to the ABA, which, by the way, is exciting as hell because there's an ABA special coming out.
Nice.
It's going to be unreal. I can't tell you how excited I am about that. But that's the way the NBA functions. So now everybody's thinking, blow it up, make strategic change. Let's be surgical. Yeah, you got to be lucky.
You got to be lucky.
And the best example of luck is Dallas. My God, you've got the biggest idiot in the history of the game, Nico Harrison. History of management. Makes the worst trade of all time in any sport.
But defense wins championships.
Doesn't
Paul.
matter,
No.
dude. It's
Defense
Luka
wins
Doncic.
It's only one reason they have a shot at relevancy. Yeah, defense wins championship if you're an idiot and you trade away a best player,
That's what I'm
one of
saying.
the best players. Like that. Yeah, axioms like that make no
Yeah.
sense if you don't have the players to back it up. So I think that that's what that's what fires me up about what's going on right now is everybody's hurting in this direction of surgical, strategic, long-term culture, all the buzzwords. You got to get the players. Look at Sacramento. 3 years ago, they're a playoff team. Now they're a
Light the
train
beam.
wreck.
You remember Light the Beam was going crazy at that time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Listen.
Now they're a train wreck.
That was an example of luck. The Kings were bad, and then they had a season where they were good, and they made the stupidest decision in their franchise's history, which was trading away Tyrese Halliburton. And guess what? They're bad again.
They're
It's
horrible.
It's just the way it is.
Just the way it works out. Who would have thought Halliburton would be the player he is? Just like, my God, who would have thought SGA would be the player he is?
Not the Clippers.
Not the Clippers.
Actually, maybe. There was a lot of us that did.
Not as much,
No.
but
Wildest dream, I never thought he was MVP.
No.
I thought he'd be good. I
Yeah.
didn't think he'd be like this, like epic, generational, that type of player. So
Yeah, but that's what I like. Just to kind of wrap it up in a bow, it's like not every decision that is being made by NBA front offices and things like that are good,
90% of them aren't. So let's go with that.
right? Like,
And
so,
so you had that 90% that aren't good or are questionable or are marginal or are risky, with 10% of them being great. And then that center that you really have a hard time putting a percentage on of luck. Luck
Yeah.
of the draw, Mavs get Cooper Flag.
Mhm.
I mean, those sorts of things. Orlando, luck of the draw, gets 2 number 1 draft picks and get Penny Hardaway and Shaq.
Mhm.
When the Timberwolves sucked worse than anybody in the world. That's but that's just you're so right. Nesh, thanks so much for being with us
Of
today.
course. Thank you for having me.
So Josh and I are going to take a break. Remember, text in 833-401-1440 who you want for the NBA legend for our discussion. If you win, you get a T-shirt. We'll ship it out to you next week. And we're going to come back with Doug McClain as our community champion here on Hoop City on Sports 1440.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Welcome to Uncommon. Visit Subaru.ca.
Wondering what to get your sweetheart this Valentine's Day? How about the gift of from Metal Supermarkets? They sell it, cut it, and bend it fast. Nothing says love like a sheet of solid steel to last a lifetime, just like your affection. Or you could do the old box of chocolate thing. So predictable. Be better. Metal Supermarkets, the local convenience stores for Southside, West End, metalsupermarkets.com.
February is full-on sports action at Selly's Sports Bar and Lounge. Catch the biggest four-down football game of the year on Sunday, February 8th. Plus a pretty big winter sports event. Go Canada! Not a bad seat in the house, tons of big screens, and Sully's menu is awesome. Small bites and big bites, game night food and drink features. Dig in and cheer loudly at Sully's at all 3 Century Casino locations, Edmonton, St. Albert, and Century Mile.
Every day is game day at Century Casino.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go, your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
Been there? Scrap that. Metal Neck Salvage.
With public scrapyard locations in Camrose and Drayton Valley, they'll even come to you. Metal Necks has the trailers and equipment to haul anything away, and not just the good stuff. They'll take it all and pay you more. Their crew also tackles farm, oil field, and industrial site cleanups. Book now for winter. Plus, demolition and roll-off bin services. Details at metalnecks.ca and on Facebook.
Taking care of their customers one piece at a time. Metal Neck Salvage.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
I didn't tell anybody this, Josh, when we started because we got caught up in our conversation. But my playlist, Paul's playlist, I posted last night. It's what I would call unique hits of 1968. Now,
Yeah, I might have seen that on our little lineup here today and went, oh boy, this is going to be a day. I tell you what.
1968 was a great year. But one of the things I wanted to do was to bring some of the songs from that era that you don't really hear that often. And Sly and the Family Stone, of course, are very, very popular. People have heard a lot of their music, but I don't think you've heard a lot of Iron Butterfly, and that's going to be the lead into the next one. But most importantly, let's get to our community champion of the day. Now, first of all, I got to find this on here before we get to Doug. There we go. This is our community champion, and sponsored by Innovative Benefits. If it's time for you to review your company benefits, personal insurance plans, or investment strategies, talk to Randy Parrish and his team at Innovative Benefits. They will give you straightforward and honest advice with access to the best products in the industry. Trust the great folks at Innovative Benefits to do what's best for you, your family, and your business. To find out more, go to innovativebenefits.ca. Doug MacLean. Doug has hosted our show. Doug has been on as a guest. Doug is a huge figure in the sports community. He's the voice of the Pandas and the Bears on the football field, on the basketball court. He works for FISHU. He does 3x3. And, of course, I have the privilege of working alongside Doug for these many years with the Edmonton Stingers. And I welcome Doug in as our community champion today. How are you today, Doug?
I'm awesome, Paul. How are you?
Great. It's great to have you on, and thanks for making time.
My pleasure.
So why don't we start with the teams that you do the work for right now? That, of course, are the University of Alberta Pandas and Bears. Last night, I believe both teams won. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Pandas with a 20-point win, 65-45 over Lethbridge, and the Bears an 86-69 win over the Pronghorns.
Okay. So, Doug, now we had a unique situation in Canada West after the new year, or at the end of the first session. There were 4 teams, I believe, in Canada West that were undefeated: Regina, Saskatchewan, the Pandas, and Calgary?
Calgary, yeah, on the women's side, yeah.
On the women's side. Now, the Pandas squared off against the number 1 ranked undefeated University of Saskatchewan, Lisa Tomaitis-led Huskies. Lost 2 very, very tight games. Really had a shot in both games, it looked like, to win, but fell a little bit short. But now going down to Calgary last weekend, they dropped 2 as well. Would you, from your vantage point, regard that as a bit of a surprise and a bit of a disappointment to drop both to a good Dinos team? But did you think that this was going to be the outcome, that the Pandas would be in a position where they would drop both to the Dinos.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, like you said, all four of those teams 4-0 or 10-0 rather coming through into the Christmas break. All those teams had played respectfully lesser competition, so it was really hard to gauge where everybody was at. As you said, Pandas come out of the break, they play Saskatchewan, play them really well, and then all four of these teams are playing each other over the course of the month. It was whoever designed the schedule, well done. That was pretty impressive. And I would have thought, honestly, that maybe worst case scenario for the Pandas in that 6-game stretch, they'd go 500, 3-3. They end up going 1-5. And certainly the Calgary games coming off, they lost to Regina the week prior on the road in Regina, lost on the Friday. Were down on the Saturday, had a huge fourth quarter comeback and won. I thought, okay, that's a really good sign against a good Regina team. Underlying numbers for Calgary relative to the rest of the conference, not as strong as those other three, as Alberta, Saskatchewan, Regina. And the Pandas, Friday night, they scored 15 points in the first half. They just offensively is just slipped away. And even last night, they in the third quarter, for a good stretch of the third quarter, they were shooting under 6% from the field. Wow. They're just offensively right now, it's not there. And I think that led to those couple losses last week against the Dinos. And they played well enough last night to win against Lethbridge, but it's not going to work going forward. They've got to find some answers, especially the offensive end. So to answer your question, yes, surprised, but it has been a bit of a struggle the last few weeks.
Well, what's interesting, Doug, and we've had Scott Edwards, the great coach for the Pandas on, and the Pandas really were rolling offensively. They were very good defensively, but offensively, they really seemed to have their groove. But from all of the basketball that you've played, coached, and called, that when there's something that can happen to a team, and it can be chemistry, it can be confidence, and most likely and most often it's a combination of both of those factors. But when that goes south, you start thinking about what you're doing offensively in particular. That's a dangerous place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's funny, even last night, they were getting good looks all night long. Lethbridge played well. Lethbridge is, they're a team that's going to be competitive. They're good. They're quick. They play a similar style to the Pandas. They're all over you defensively. They're not big, but they do a good job getting hands on balls and hands in passing lanes. Did a good job of that. But the Pandas still had looks last night. And, you could just tell watching them, I'm going to put this shot up, and I hope it's going in. I hope it's going in. I hope, if not, it's going to go to someone on an offensive board. And that was kind of how they looked. And you know that, having played and coached, you can't play that way. You have to shoot as if that thing's going down. I don't care what's going on. It's going down. And they're just uncharacteristically missing easy looks. They're rushing shots, and they finally settled down late in the third quarter and got themselves rolling into the fourth. I thought that was important. They were going to win that game, with all respect, almost no matter what. They're just a better team than Lethbridge. Let's just be honest. Right. They're better. They were going to win that game. They're just too good defensively to give Lethbridge enough to win that game. But I think it was positive for the Pandas to wrestle things back a little bit offensively into the fourth quarter, find some rhythm that hopefully they can start to build into tonight, because you're 100% right. It can. They lost Reese Hall against Saskatchewan. That's been a big loss because she does so much. She stretches the floor. She can put the ball on the floor. She's one of their best rebounders. And while they've added, McKinley Peninga out of Red Deer has been really good stepping into that role. She's a second-year player. There are going to be some ups and downs, but she's been really good, but maybe isn't quite ready for playing 25, 28 minutes a night. So they miss Reese Hall a ton. I'm not saying that's the whole reason things have gone the way they've gone this month, but so there's your chemistry angle that you mentioned. But I think it's right now, I think it's more a confidence thing than a chemistry thing. They're deep enough, to me, as much as Reese Hall is important, they're deep enough to withstand a loss like that. The confidence piece is a different story.
Well, and I think you hit on what needs to happen and to be carried forward into today's game, and that is continuing to push, continuing to find the kind of chemistry you're looking for, and then look for and hope for and find your belief in yourselves that when you work to get open shots, and like you're saying, Doug, they're getting open shots. It's not shot availability. It's not opponents taking away opportunities. It's when you have those opportunities, having the confidence to knock them down. So I know Scott is very, very good at the psychology side of coaching, and he will be, I know he's working extremely hard, and hopefully tonight will be another step forward, because one of the big drawbacks to what has happened with the Pandas is now all of a sudden they don't get home court advantage in the playoffs, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So the way, for those unfamiliar, the way that Canada West has designed their playoff system this year is essentially it rotates. So this year, the top spot will go to the first place team in the Pacific Division. Second seed goes to the first place team in the Prairie Division. That's going to be Saskatchewan. Because Alberta's locked into fourth in the Prairie, they're going to end up with the 8th seed. And, you know, the path is going to be challenging no matter what. They're going to be on the road. They're going to go next week, and it's still to be determined who they'll play in that play-in game. It's going to be, I'm just looking at my notes here quickly because I was doing that this morning, because there's still a lot of stuff that can change. It's UVic or Fraser Valley. They'll play in Vancouver. Winner of that will get UBC. So that's not going to be easy.
No.
The path would wind through Regina, so they would avoid, if they can go on a run, they would avoid Saskatchewan until the Canada West final, which I think is important. Again, they did beat Regina. That's a long ways down the road. Obviously, they got to get through a couple teams out west first. But look, this team is really good. Like, they are really good. I think it's one of, if not the best team that Scott's had, and it's come a little bit undone the last few weeks, but they got 5 seniors. We had 3 of them on last night. We're going to get the other 2 tonight. And Jaden Tanner, one of their 5th-year players, said, look, like, they know they haven't been great the last few weeks, but they also have a really strong belief in what they're capable of doing. So you can't count them out yet. Despite the struggles the last 4 weeks, they can still get on a run and in my mind, win the whole thing.
I'm talking with our community champion of the week, Doug MacLean, voice of the Pandas and the Bears and the Stingers and a whole bunch of other teams as well, here on Hoop City with Paul Sir and Josh Fenwick. Doug, Bears, you and I have talked before. For all intents and purposes, it would seem like the University of Alberta Golden Bears have exceeded expectations this year. How are they playing right now as they get set up for the playoffs? And by the way, they will get home court advantage because of the excellent season that they've had.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I would say if you'd have told me that one team would be hosting a playoff round at the end of the year, it would have been, well, the Pandas, of course, for sure. The Bears are going to be decent, but they're young. They're a bit inexperienced. We'll see where they go. I mean, they're 14-5 right now. They're up and down. I mean, they've split each of their last 4 weekend series, so they try to avoid that trend tonight and see if they can get a win to sweep Lethbridge. And even last night, I mean, it's 35-all at halftime, and they're all over the place after a 10-0 run to start the game. So it's up, it's down, it's up and down. The second half, though, I thought they really started to find their game in the kind of matchup they had against Lethbridge. Lethbridge, not a big team. Alberta blessed with some size. We don't see that as much in basketball anywhere, certainly in Canada West, where they have 4 posts who are legitimate. Well, 3 are legitimate 5s. 1 can play there, but Ethan Eggert plays more of a 4. But they've got some size. And the first half, I kept saying on the broadcast, they got to get the ball inside, get the touches inside. Even if that's not where you get your final look, get the ball in there. Lethbridge does not have the bodies to handle it. Finally, in the second half, they started putting the ball inside, and they're getting looks from the outside because of those paint touches. And so I thought they finally started to say, oh, this is how, again, in this matchup, this is how we win. And they were outstanding in the second half. So they have that capability in them. It disappears in stretches, but they found it last night in the second half and just blew the doors off in the final 20.
Well, and as the saying goes, youth is wasted on the young. They're a young team, and they're learning as they go. But the fact that they learned through the course of the game, never mind through the course of a very successful season, that the Bears, it's exciting to see a young team under a first-year coach have the kind of success they have, and hopefully will be well prepared as they host their first playoff game. And would that be next weekend, Doug? And if so, who would it possibly be against?
Yeah, so there's still, again, even on the men's side, I'm trying to just 100% confirm that everything is locked in, because initially they needed to sweep this weekend, but with the way things happened last night, it appears, again, I was doing this prep before I came on with you, so I'm 99% sure that they have clinched that playoff spot, so just to put that out there. But if they were to finish second, time's yet to be determined. It would be Friday, Saturday. They got to match that off with volleyball going on too, so not exactly sure what the timing would be. And again, as I was looking here, Brandon and Regina are still bad. They're both in the playoffs, but battling for the final positioning. So either Brandon or Regina would be here, as well as Fraser Valley. And the winner of that game on the Friday would get the Bears on Saturday.
Okay. Exciting. So people will be able to watch some great basketball and volleyball. Now go to the basketball, not the I'm just kidding. I always say the most depressing place for a basketball coach to go is a volleyball practice, to go in and see all these tall guys and men and women, boys and girls jumping out of the gym. But that's for another time. Doug, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come back for our next segment with you. We'll talk about the Stingers. We're going to talk about an announcement in the CEBL, and we're going to talk more about Doug MacLean. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with the great Josh Fenwick, here on your Sports Leader, Sports 1440.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. A top safety pick for unmatched peace of mind. Visit Subaru.ca.
What keeps Alberta business moving? It's pallets. Whether you're shipping, manufacturing, or looking for in-house storage solutions. Hi, it's Andrew with the Pallet Recycler here in Edmonton, and we've been providing reliable, affordable, recycled, and custom pallets for local businesses for the past 30 years. Contact the Pallet Recycler at 825-474-1981 to find out why recycled pallets are the most cost-effective way to move and store your product. Learn about our recycling program as well at thepalletrecycler.ca.
Custom skate performance. Precision meets passion. Take your skating to the next level with Aligned Custom Skate Performance in Sherwood Park. We make your skates feel like an extension of you. From kids lacing up for the first time to beer league warriors to elite level pros, we fit every skater with precision and care. Only a Duster goes straight from off the shelf to on the ice. Our expert alignment process ensures the perfect fit, eliminating pressure points and maximizing your blade's performance. Aligned Custom Skate gives you the edge where it matters most, on the ice. Stop being the team grocery stick and visit AlignedSkate.com today. Whether it's a full custom fitting or professional sharpening, we've got you covered. So don't just skate, skate aligned. Book your appointment today and feel the difference. Discover why we're trusted by hockey pros and podium champions. Help us cure the bender in your life. Once again, visit AlignedSkate.com to get started.
Custom skate performance with precision meets passion.
Roll into fun with Bowl Canada. Our kids' bowling leagues are the perfect way to let your child make new friends and learn new skills. Visit bowlcanada.ca now to get rolling. Let's make memories one frame at a time.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back to Hoop City. Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, being joined by our community champion, Doug MacLean, today. Doug, I have to talk a little bit about the song that just led in. Number one hit wonder, Iron Butterfly. Number two, it's the album sold 3 million copies worldwide. It's like 6 times platinum. What made it unique in 1968 is it was 17 minutes long. Inagata Davida is the name. Nobody really understands, of course, what the title meant other than the way that the writer talked about it, something about falling in love. But it was a rage at the time, as you can imagine, because it was so weird. Like 17 minutes, drum solo, heavy metal guitar. But just an absolutely. It's one of those songs that if you listen to, you'll never get those 17 minutes back. I can't say I'm recommending it because it's a great song. It's just a unique song and a unique moment in music history. So back with Doug MacLean. Doug, let's jump over to the CEBL. We'll start with the CEBL before we go to the Stingers. CEBL makes the announcement this week that the Saskatchewan Rattlers are now the Saskatchewan Mamba. New logo, new owners. The new owners are also the owners of the Calgary Surge. Definitely a new chapter in the CEBL. I'm gonna keep what the direction of where our conversation could go pretty open. What are your thoughts on this announcement?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure, and they've been hinting at it for a bunch of weeks. I think they were calling themselves the Saskatchewan Professional Basketball Club for a bit, and it's actually and I didn't realize this myself until after the announcement. It's the Saskatoon Mamba, so that's interesting too. Yeah, and I was sort of the same.
I just saw Mamba. Okay, Saskatoon Mamba.
Yeah,
okay.
So that's interesting in the sense of, are they looking at? I mean, is Regina now in consideration as a potential franchise? I have no idea, but that was an interesting little subtle thing about it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm a marketing guy. That's my background. To me, sometimes you can do things for the sake of doing them, and I'm not really sure that it fixes some of the challenges that you have. I mean, they had a really good first year, did the Rattlers, winning the CEBL championship. They have not been very good since. I'm not sure changing your logo and your colors is going to fix that necessarily, but who knows? I mean, that might shift things, but we'll see. So it's on the business side, it's interesting. I mean, pink, again, I'm not the target market, so I'm not sure that it's the color that makes sense. But again, I'm not the guy they're trying to go after. So, but hey, they got to improve things on the floor. They have to be a more competitive franchise, because they have not been competitive, frankly, at all. It's usually a pretty winnable spot on the bingo card when they come rolling through town. So that's got to change. Interesting having one set of owners with two teams. I mean, obviously the league owned all the franchises at one point, and they've been slowly parsing them off. I mean, that can be challenging. We saw that in the Canadian Football League years ago with David Braley owning the Toronto Argonauts and the BC Lions. I don't know what it necessarily says about the business environment in the CEBL, whether that's good that people are interested or bad that there aren't enough people interested locally in Saskatchewan to buy and run the franchise. They're also going to play out of two venues, which is interesting. So they'll play at, and I'm forgetting the name. It used to be Saskatchewan Place. There's a new name, or which I'm forgetting now. And then they're going to play on campus at the University of Saskatchewan, which is a relatively new, last decade, nice but smaller venue. So just some interesting things going on, I think, in terms of the operations side of it. But I keep coming back to, they have to be better on the floor in order to make any of this work.
Well, I think you summarized it really well, Doug. Number one, you can't have one without the other. You have to be competitive on the court to give people reasons to come and watch. And it's one thing to not be very good but be entertaining to watch. It's another thing to not be very good and hard to watch. And the Rattlers were hard to watch.
Yeah.
Now, I think that really came down to, and I'm not going to throw the coaches under the bus on this, I think the coaches really tried hard to do the best that they could with what they had to work with. But honestly, it was a very, very poorly constructed lineup over the past few seasons. So there wasn't much talent really to build around. Effort was fine. It's just they weren't very good.
Yeah.
So you're right. They're going to have to be more compelling on the court. From a business operations standpoint, that is going to be interesting. I have some experience in this, but multiple venues, challenging. That's number one. But number two, I think, and this is based on people I know in Saskatoon, talking about the then Rattlers in their community. And just there never was a connection that was forged in that community, because as you know, Doug, Saskatchewan fans are very loyal if you get their hearts. And I don't think that the CEBL via the Rattlers ever got their hearts So this new ownership group is going to have to do that. And there's no magic here. There's just hard work, and there's community involvement. So my question, and I'd be very interested in your comments on this. My question is, to me, if I had to pick what the biggest challenge is, it's having not just an owner of another franchise, but an ownership group that doesn't live there. How are they going to ensure that community is engaged by assembling the kind of on-the-ground team that will do the necessary work in order to raise not just the profile, but raise the passion meter in Saskatoon to want to come and watch the now Mamba play?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, because I think Jason Ribeiro, one of the two owners of the Surge and now the Mamba, I think it is going to be a challenge when you're not in that market. They are based out of Calgary. When you're out there all the time, it is going to be different. And that doesn't mean you're an absentee owner. I mean, they might have a great plan in terms of how they're going to do this. We'll see how that rolls out. But I think you're right. Even if you're in that community in Saskatoon and you realize, okay, well, it's not a local owner, it's someone from the outside, that can create some inherent challenges, whether they're fair or not. That's a reality of having an owner that lives somewhere else. That we've seen that in sports all over the place, that can create some, oftentimes probably unfair, but it can create a bit of mistrust or uncertainty about where things are going to go. So you're right. They're going to have people on the ground that have very strong Saskatoon ties, that know the market, that know the people, that can work and be out in the community, engaging them. I mean, Saskatoon's not a big community, relatively speaking, but it's a really good sports community. I mean, they support amateur sports. I've seen that with the University of Saskatchewan for years. They support the Saskatoon Blades. The Saskatchewan Rush have gone in there after moving from Edmonton to the National Lacrosse League and have done quite well in what is at least a decade now of time there. So it's doable in a relatively small market. And the Rattlers are going to have to find, the Mamba are going to have to find people on the ground that can do that. And but the other thing I think they have to think about, which maybe follows a bit of the Edmonton model, is finding players that are going to be there, that are prominent players on the floor, that are going to return year after year. And that's been part of the success, I think, here, is that the Stingers have done a good job of keeping players, and players that aren't just playing bit roles. They're key parts of the roster. And I think if you're looking at a 5-year plan for Saskatoon, it's got to include that. Who wants to be here, wants to stay here, wants to be part of this going forward? You have those two things in place, then you've got the potential, I think, to see a team grow and thrive.
Totally agree with you. I remember when the CEBL came into existence, one of the apprehensions in Saskatoon specifically, again through some people I know there, is that Saskatoon, as much as Winnipeg in particular, have been stung in the past by fledgling professional leagues in basketball. There were a couple of instances in Saskatchewan where they had pretty successful minor league basketball happening, only to have the league fold. And having been involved in one of those leagues, I know how it can create a sour taste in a community's mouth. For whatever reason, and I think, for the reasons you shared with me and that we've discussed, Doug, I think the Saskatoon approach has been wait and see. Let's see if these guys are for real. And so far they haven't been, for the reasons we've discussed. So rebranding, I guess you gotta do it. Am I a fan of it? No, but hey, whatever. Maybe people will like purple and black. So that's a nice color palette. Good for them. But we'll see. I mean, certainly we wish the CEBL well. And before we get into our final discussions, I do want to touch on the CEBL. The CEBL is evolving, and it has evolved really rather dramatically over the last 3 years, Doug, with the shift from corporate ownership of all franchises to expansion into new markets. So now I believe there's 2 corporate-owned teams, one in the Toronto area. I don't know if it's Brampton or not. And then Richard Petko, who also owns the Niagara franchise. But the rest are privately owned. So we now have a league of private owners that leads to a whole bunch of different issues. You've got egos, you've got agendas, you've got all these things that professional sports are noted for, which I think Mr. Petco did a phenomenal job in making his commitment to the league in establishing, establishing their standards of what they wanted the league to look like. Now, not only do we have almost all private ownership, but the face, the voice, and the leadership figurehead of the league is no longer there. And that, of course, is Mike Morreale. Mike worked tirelessly in the lead up to the launch of the league and in the building of the league. And Mike is no longer there. And depending on who you talk to, the reasons he left can be looked at as, it's just passage of time for a new chapter, to really wasn't a great departure, didn't end well, that sort of thing. But with that kind of lead up, Doug, what are your thoughts about this? Let's just say the state of the league right now. Is it, well, let's see what this year brings, or is it a progression that you see going in a positive direction?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's hard. It's always hard to know, I think, a little bit in some ways, because you never really see entirely what's under the hood. And even being connected, and I mean, I'm not in there every day with the Stingers, but I mean, you and I are there calling the games. You see what's happening around. I mean, you have a sense of what's going on. And even if you look at the Stingers, it's not a huge team, so not a lot of people. They've done a good job, I think, of on the ticket sales side of things. For the most part, crowds have been pretty good, and it's not, from what I know or get, it's not, the house isn't being papered. Like it's legit sales for the most part. And is that, I'm not sure that's what's happening across the league. I mean, you look at games and there are decent crowds in some places and not so much in others. But when you sort of sit back and think about the economics of it, you've got players coming in, they're not making big salaries, but they're decent enough. You got to find ways to pay that. You're, in some cases, depending on how contracts are structured, and you probably know this better with Steve's involvement, but there are other things that are being provided to the athletes, be it accommodations, be it car, whatever the case is, to support the players while they're in those respective markets. Those things all add up. You have to then find a way, and it can't often just be ticket sales to offset those costs. And that's just trying to get yourself in a position to break even, let alone put a little bit of money back in your pocket or to reinvest in the franchise. So with sponsorship being a tricky thing in the world right now anyway, with lots of economic uncertainty all over the place, that creates another layer of challenge. So it's a hard question to answer, because I think you look on the surface and you'd say, yeah, the league's great. I mean, as you said, they've expanded ticket sales and crowds seem to be pretty decent for the most part, but it's the under the hood part that's hard to know franchise by franchise to know, okay, like we see Saskatoon now in 2 different buildings. That raises some flags for me. You see, I mean, we've had franchises in the last, not more as recently, but previously move. You had Newfoundland disappear. You've had Brampton end up there from Hamilton. So there's lots of things, and those things can happen in fledgling leagues, but you just you're never quite sure what's under the hood. And I think you raised the most important point, is that the anchor of all of this was Mike Morreale. And now with him being gone, how does that change in terms of how the teams respond to each other, how they work? Because you have to work collectively as a group of teams. You need to be looking at your own stuff, but also how is this building the league forward? So that, what I've just said doesn't provide an answer, but I think those are some of the questions that I'd be pondering in terms of really understanding where this league's at. In my mind, it's done better than I thought it would, but can that continue? I think hopefully yes, but there are some questions.
I think there's lots of questions, and I think what you did is you provided the answer with the questions, Doug, because that is exactly what we have. We don't know. Mike's leaving is gaping. That's a gaping hole.
Yeah.
That is the identity of the league that really one person provided. So the league has to replace that, maybe not in the same way with another big personality, but either in a similar way or a different way. They have to have a face, name, and an image that they're pushing forward. They have to progress in terms of how the league is marketed. the quality of what's on the court, the involvement in the community. And they have some inherent challenges in that it's a short season. It's during the summer. From a revenue generation standpoint, you have limitations of what you can do because you hit it on the head. It's ticket sales and sponsorships. That's where you're going to generate your money. So they have their challenges. And thank goodness we're 8 years into it. Hopefully they're figuring it out. Hopefully the Canadian broadcast community will get, I'd say, more steadfast behind this. My God, Sportsnet and TSN have 80 channels between them. Broadcast a bunch more games. What are you putting on there? 4 channels with the same broadcasts? Like, bring in some of the local broadcasts. I'm hoping the league will get a little more love from the broadcast community because, quite frankly, they deserve it. And honestly, I can't imagine you'd have worse numbers watching a CEBL game than some obscure sporting event that you're seeing on 4 channels. That's of course, my opinion. And as you know, Doug, I'm very opinionated, but
but you're right, and I think because of the growth of basketball in this country, I think there is just more general interest in the sport. But you hit on the points that I think are challenging in terms of it being short season, summer season. The other thing I would add too that has been a bigger challenge, which is a good thing and a bad thing, is the players that come play part of the season and then vanish. And we saw that in the playoffs last year with Ottawa, where I think it was 4 or 5 of their players were gone. They had to release a statement to their fans saying, look, we apologize for the fact that that's a huge problem for the league. So if as a fan, you can't sort of understand what my team is going to look like at the most important time of the season, that's a challenge. It's a good thing in the sense that it means they're attracting good players to the league. And we've seen that. The quality of the product has been great. But that's another risk, I think, of the summer season part that they're going to have to address, because I think that the credibility piece did take a big hit, and it can continue to take a big hit if they don't close that loophole to some degree.
I think that's a critical point, that you do need reliability and you do need that sense of professionalism and identification with the team, the comings and goings. It's one thing to cut a player because they're not playing well. It's another thing to have a player just up and leave that is a major part of your team's success. So, lots of challenges ahead, but thank goodness we have the league here. And by the way, I can't say enough about the Stingers games in terms of entertainment value, atmosphere. The Stingers organization has done a marvelous and continues to do a marvelous job. Always worth the price of admission, and really hope people will get out and continue to support our local CEBL franchise. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick. We're going to spend a couple more minutes, Doug, but I want to talk about you. I've known you for a long time. Where did your passion for basketball emanate from? I know you played, but when did it start, and what has motivated and driven you into loving the game so much?
Oh, yeah. For me, growing up, I grew up in the Edmonton area in St. Albert, and basketball wasn't a huge thing when I was younger. Played a little bit. I had a really good gym teacher in elementary who got us playing all kinds of sports and sort of adaptive, 1 point if you hit the backboard, 2 if you hit the rim, 3 if you knock it through. So little things like that. But I didn't play a lot. My dad took me to the Golden Bears Invitational, I think in 1985-ish. And that's really what kind of got me into the university side and Canada West side. And then I owe a lot of credit to a really dear friend of mine, AJ Jakubek, who got me into the broadcasting stuff. He's now has been in Ottawa for many years, broadcasting there, doing the Ottawa Red Blacks games. We became friends in about grade 5, and he had a court in his backyard, and we were playing all the time. And that's really what kind of got me into it, because I'd never really played a lot before. And I got into it then and played in junior high. I was an extremely average high school player, but was fortunate to play with some good players on some good teams. And there weren't a lot of people in the university system looking for skinny backup point guards. So the career kind of wound up. But I've just been fortunate on the basketball side to be able to get pulled into lots of things. Like I said, AJ got me into doing the U of A games 25 years ago, and I've been lucky to do those ever since. And did a little bit of refereeing when I was younger, and got into coaching through my brother-in-law, who was coaching the high school system here in Edmonton, and did that with him and some on my own. And then, I've been able to work in different things sport-wise that have had connections to basketball too. So I've been really, really fortunate to touch on the sport in lots of different ways, and it's given me far more than I could ever give back. But I've been pretty lucky to be connected to it.
Well, Doug, I would contest that last statement. You've given an awful lot back to the sport, certainly a lot back to the community, and you've done a lot for organizations, not just on the court, but as I mentioned in my opening introductory remarks, you've done a lot for organizations that work in sport in general and in basketball specifically. So thank you for all that you do. You are a very deserving community champion, and thanks so much for joining me today on Hoop City, and look forward. You'll be back, I know, again to talk about the Canada West playoffs, the Stingers, and much, much more. But Doug MacLean, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Paul, and thanks for the very kind words. That's very nice of you, and loved working with you on the various things we've worked on, and happy to come on the show anytime you need me.
Okay, Doug MacLean joining us here. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, it'll be a conversation I had yesterday with Ben Golliver about the NBA trades, and this is our deep dive. And as we do every week, we go into the weeds, and there's some great conversation ahead. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick, here on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Good. Engineered for Canadian winters. Visit Subaru.ca.
What keeps Alberta business moving? It's pallets. Whether you're shipping, manufacturing, or looking for in-house storage solutions. Hi, it's Andrew with the Pallet Recycler here in Edmonton, and we've been providing reliable, affordable, recycled, and custom pallets for local businesses for the past 30 years. Contact the Pallet Recycler at 825-474-1981 to find out why recycled pallets are the most cost-effective way to move and store your product. Learn about our recycling program as well at thepalletrecycler.ca.
A little ice and snow can't stop your Canadian spirit, especially when you start at the Lawnmower Hospital. Come find a wide selection of top-performing snowblowers, sweepers, and backpack blowers from the best names in snow removal, like Toro, Ariens, Echo, and BCS. Don't forget to pick up pet-safe, plant-safe ice melt, along with Aspen Fuel to keep you clearing. The Lawnmower Hospital. Visit lawnmowerhosp.com.
The Lawnmower Hospital.
Own and run a small business? Innovative Benefits provides private health service plan setup, as well as administration services for businesses like yours. But the best part is, Innovative Benefits offers benefit plans that cost less than the industry average, 20 to 40% less. And they provide 100% coverage with no insurance company rules, administration, or interference. So if you have medical, dental, or healthcare expenses, their plans will always increase your cash flow. Visit innovativebenefits.ca for more.
Heart2Care Home Care is an approved Veterans Independence Program provider. Not sure if you qualify for personal care, home care, or nursing assistance? Call 780-717-9839 and our team will help you access your benefits. Visit heart2care.ca today.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free radio player app and listen wherever you go.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome to the deep dive on Hoop City with Paul Sir. I'm pleased to be welcoming back Ben Golliver. Ben, we talk often. We talk about a lot of different things relating to the sport of basketball, but we've just come through an interesting trade deadline season. And I guess my first question for you, Ben, was this year different than other years? You've been doing this a long time. This trade season seems to have a little more salsa on it, a little more cheese on the side. Like it and I don't know if that's social media, if this is just normal activity, but I don't think it was. I wouldn't call them seismic shifts, but I would call them certainly major focal points evolving into some pretty substantial changes for a variety of teams.
Well, we can point to some pretty big names who got traded, right? Anthony Davis, you go back a little bit, Trae Young,
Yes.
Jaren Jackson Jr., and the list goes on from there. What has changed, and it's not just this year, it's been the last couple of years, but the NBA instituted a harsher salary cap that's more like a hard cap, kind of like the NFL. And so what I would say in the old days, and by old days, I mean maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the trade deadline was an opportunity for good teams to be buyers and get ready for a championship push. And it was an opportunity for the bad teams to be sellers and get some draft picks, play for the future, right? That's typically the construction of the trade deadline as we've known it for a really long time. What has changed now, it's not about good teams or bad teams. It's about expensive teams and not expensive teams.
Yes.
And so what you're seeing is even really good teams that might be in the championship picture wind up being sellers because they're concerned about trying to avoid luxury tax payments, or they're trying to avoid what they call the second apron, which is the highest tax level that teams face. And what you see is that you have less expensive teams who therefore, even if they're bad, they have the ability to spend because they have this cap space. And, there's other teams that are out there who are willing to give them players to kind of fill it and take the money off their hands. So the whole idea of the hard cap is to create parity. It's to spread the talent around more evenly. And that's where you really saw this trade deadline. There was very few trades made at the deadline that actually impact the championship chase. Minnesota went out and got a guard in Ayo Dosunmu. You look at the Boston Celtics, they get a center in Nikola Vucevic. Those are really the moves I see potentially impacting, the deep playoff chase, the conference finals and the finals. Yes. Otherwise, almost all the other trades that were made were financially motivated trades. And what I mean when I'm talking about expensive teams versus less expensive teams, Washington, very low payroll. They decided to take on Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Are those guys even going to play this year? Maybe not. Utah, very cheap team in terms of their payroll. They're able to bring in a player like Jaren Jackson Jr., very expensive player. Even though they're rebuilding, they can start to plan for the future. So that is the biggest trend shift that we've seen when it comes to the trade deadline. It's no longer about good teams and bad teams. It's about expensive rosters and cheap rosters.
Never have seen the word apron used so much in my life. It's like going into a kitchen.
You were telling me about salsa and the cheese on the sides. You know something about that, sounds like.
You might as well throw the apron on when you're making your decisions. It's really so true. The one other team I would put in there that made, I think, a substantial move would be Cleveland.
Oh yeah.
The movement of James Harden, like Harden, 4 teams in 6 years. He is, he is such an odd duck that I don't know if he can't. If he's just restless or what his mindset is like, but there's something about what happened that's a bit intriguing. I'm really intrigued at how this is going to play out, Ben, because I look at Harden. He's a Hall of Fame player, fantastic, capable of going into Cleveland and really making a difference for Mitchell, for the bigs that they have there. They've got the defending defensive player of the year, and they've had an underwhelming season, although of late they have been much better. And part of that was because Garland's been hurt. But now you've got, as you mentioned, Minnesota. Being a Timberwolves fan, I was glad to see them pick up Dosunmu because that is a gaping hole in their depth. Dillingham just hasn't done much of anything at all. And then, like you mentioned about Boston's acquisition of a big. So now you've got 3 teams that really are that really did use this to make a push. And
I appreciate you mentioning Cleveland because I think that was an oversight on my behalf. It's also a really interesting example of what I'm talking about, though, with the expensive teams and the cheap teams. So they make a win now move by going to get Harden because they don't trust Darius Garland to stay healthy. He hasn't really been a playoff performer for them in the past years. Remember, he was limping around against the Pacers last year in the playoffs. So they're saying Harden might be older, but they're almost the exact same amount of money for this season. So that part is a wash. And he's more reliable, more durable, and he can hold up for the playoffs better than Garland. So that's good. But Cleveland also traded away DeAndre Hunter, and they saved themselves about $50 million in luxury tax payments by trading a guy who was their big deadline acquisition last year, who's supposed to be a starting level player for them. And they also traded away Garland, who theoretically was going to be their point guard of the future, a top 5 lottery pick they had drafted and groomed for years, who was going to be expensive, going forward into the future. And so even though they made the win now trade with Harden, Cleveland, because they were so expensive, they actually cut costs at the deadline too. So it's a very unique dynamic. And actually, same thing true for Minnesota, where they trade Conley, they do trade Dillingham, they lose some assets just to create the opportunity to bring in Ayo Dosunmu. So it's just never been quite this complicated, right? Like, it's so expensive. If you want to get a player who could really help, you're probably gonna have to make cuts somewhere else. So that part was fascinating. I love the move for Cleveland, though. People are always going to scoff about James Harden, the playoff choker. He's got a much better playoff resume than Darius Garland does. And when he's been in the Eastern Conference, he went to the second round with the Brooklyn Nets, the second round with the Philadelphia 76ers 2 years in a row. He came back out to the West, which is the tougher conference, and they lose in the first round year after year. So I would say Cleveland, that you could pencil them in as the second round team. That just tells you James Harden's, history, and they should make it at least there, if not further. And when you look at their big men, Jared Allen, one-trick pony. It's just a dunker, right? Evan Mobley, they've wanted to turn him into this playmaking big. It really hasn't worked out. He needs to be set up, but he's also a very good finisher at the basket who creates more layups and points at the rim than Harden. Maybe Luka Doncic, that's about it. So I think they're bigs who are limited. You're going to be able to get the most out of them. And then Harden, the last point I'd make here, he has so much experience playing alongside high-usage stars. You go back to Oklahoma City, it's Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. Brooklyn, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. You just go down even when he was in Houston, there was Chris Paul, there was Westbrook, there was Dwight Howard. Every stop he's had, Kawhi Leonard with the Clippers, he's always been able to play and be very effective while playing alongside a high-usage player. So Donovan Mitchell should be looking at James Harden and saying, I don't have anything to worry about. This guy knows exactly what it's going to be like to play with me.
100%. And at one point, you might have attached the label a bit selfish to Harden when he was scoring 37, but that's not the case anymore. That really isn't the case anymore.
He can't do it, right? I mean, he's too old. He can't be taking 30 shots a night.
No, he'd love to, but he might take them. He won't make them. But I think I think that's the fascinating part about Cleveland is you described it really well. And now the qualifications to be in the head office of an NBA franchise, I would think the dynamics of hiring would have changed so much. You don't have Clint Eastwood and Brad Pitt sitting down with their pieces of paper and figuring out in the Moneyball manner of how you're going to run this. Although you could say the depiction of the Oakland Athletics maybe was a precursor to Moneyball in terms of getting the most for your dollars and using analytics to get there. But, now it is such a sophisticated business that you have to balance out. So you have to balance out for your organization so many factors. And every other team is doing the same thing. I mean, it really has gone into three-dimensional chess in terms of how you position yourself for success, which makes, again, referring to the three that we're referring to, and I would put Utah into that category too, because that's a fascinating pickup, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Triple J play alongside Markkanen. That's an interesting front line, and the emergence of George in Utah as a really good scorer and consistent scorer. The Angels have set Utah up for, I think, a faster rebuild as opposed to just on the accumulation side. So I'm going to ask you about my Timberwolves. I think this match at Dosunmu with Edwards should be really good. That's my projection. This guy's long, he's athletic, he's somebody they just haven't had. This allows DiVincenzo to be more of what DiVincenzo is, which is more of the Swiss Army knife kind of player, as opposed to the part-time point guard. What do you think the impact could be of this acquisition?
Well, you know what happened. They looked at that Thunder series and they said our backcourt got chewed up by those Thunder boys. Those Thunder boys ran roughshod over our guards. They forced 1 million turnovers. They bullied the small ones. and they exhausted Anthony Edwards, right? So it's like if you're going to a pit bull fight, better bring a pit bull, right? That's what DeSumo is going to be. I mean, he's going to be relentless. He's going to push back. He's going to give them some physicality and length on the perimeter, like you described. I did think Minnesota needed a table-setting guard. I feel like Edwards has had a really, really heavy burden, and when things have gotten tough in the playoffs, he has worn down a little bit, and they've had too much on Julius Randle's plate where he's, very turnover prone, and so it turns into a situation where their offense grinds down. I just kind of don't believe in Mike Conley anymore, and so I was kind of hoping that they would be able to replace him with a similar style of point guard. Now, there aren't that many of those guys out there, and you don't want to settle for like a small guard, like in the Dillingham mold. Like some people might have tried to say, well, just give this guy more minutes or play Bones Highland more and it'll work out. That's not going to work against Oklahoma City. Your small guards have no shot. So you might as well try to be big, physical, and try to, stay to that identity. And when you look at Randle, I mean, the guy is cut like a Greek god. You look at Gobert, huge rebounding numbers, covers the paint left, right, and center. You look at Edwards, I mean, he's probably the most physically imposing two guard in the NBA. They have a real clear identity there. So I think Ayo is just a really clean fit. Is he the type of player who completely, can change a playoff series? I don't know about that, but it really helps once you lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker to be able to plug him into your playoff rotation because you just didn't really have enough guards even last year. I mean, remember how Alexander-Walker was like almost their savior in a couple of games where it's like he's the only guy who could score for them when times really got tough. And you plug in, I think also important with Ayo, he's been shooting the ball better this season than at any other point. Sometimes that happens, if it's a contract year or guys just really been in the gym working on a shot, maybe it's just luck and variance. But this is the year where he's been shooting well. And the Timberwolves need the spacing because, the big physical identity I'm talking about sometimes is a compromise on spacing. So they could certainly use another shooter too. I just thought it was a smart move. They were linked in all these big deals, Giannis rumors and all this stuff. The subtle deals where it's a real clear fit and there's going to be a benefit in the playoffs, those are the ones that I tend to like. And that one fits the bill. They were kind of my, biggest winners, but they're up there in terms of the biggest winners of the deadline.
I would agree with that. I'm talking to Ben Golliver. We're talking NBA trades here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. Ben, we'll talk about the other winner that you touched on, and that is the Boston Celtics. Celtics have been, I think, at the top of the heap of a case study of what the new apron means to how you've got to radically, in some cases, and in their case, to radically change your lineup composition. The way they dumped players in the offseason, and now Brad Stevens making a very, very pointed strategic move with a player that does plug an obvious gap. I think we're all of the ilk that the Celtics have exceeded expectations this year with Tatum being out. They played really well. Jaylen Brown has had a phenomenal season, but everybody else around him has performed at a higher level. Pritchard, I would have never expected Pritchard to be this player. And he's your guy. He's from your home state, and the guy is incredible.
He's playing so good. The other night, Reggie Miller compared him to Caitlin Clark. I don't know if you saw that. He got a little backlash on that, but that's how you're having a good season when they start comparing you to Caitlin, right?
Yeah, that is a good comparison. That was an awkward moment in that broadcast with Caitlin being on. But anyway, but now they bring in a really good post. Garza, who came from Minnesota, was a phenomenal NCAA player, didn't do anything in Minnesota, but he's been a bit effective coming off the bench, gives him some really good minutes. But now you've got a premier post to build around, and we'll see if Tatum comes back this year or not. But where does this position them in your mind now in the East? You got the Cavs making their jump, as we've talked on. But when you look at the East now, in your mind, is it Boston and is it Cleveland that are kind of emerging at the top of the pile?
Well, I would probably still default to the Knicks. I know it's been an up and down roller coaster. But man, when they play well, they look real good. And I've always been.
That's a good point.
People love to say, "Oh, the NBA is better when the Knicks are good." I love to kind of mock that and say, hey, the NBA is good all the time. The Knicks, if they want to show up, they could show up, but we've been waiting for the Knicks to be good for 30 years, right?
That's right.
But they are now. And so I think that they were another team linked to Giannis, and I think it makes sense to not do that trade now and ride it out with this group and see if they have a shot. But on the point about Boston, again, we go back to the finances. Think about all the amazing but also expensive players who've gone out. Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Al Horford. They got Anthony Simons for Drew Holiday, and they wind up trading him to get Vucevic. I'm sure there's other names I'm not even remembering. Oh, Luke Cornett. He winds up leaving. I mean, they lost basically half their rotation, and it just speaks to the power of their culture that they've been good at all this year, because teams do not lose that many good players, proven players, and maintain their standing. One guy I want to give a shout out to is Derek White. He was my biggest snub from the All-Star team. What do you have to do besides win basketball games to make the All-Star team? You got all these guys on there with losing records. I mean, look, I get he's not averaging 25 points a game, but if you want to talk about the best players in the Eastern Conference who are contributing to winning this season, Derek White's got to be on that list. I thought that was unfortunate for him to get snubbed. I get it because Jaylen Brown gets all the attention, but come on, it's more than just a one-man show there. Now, in terms of Vucevic's fit, the question for him is he's never been a playoff performer. He's never reached the second round of the playoffs in his entire career. And he's going to be one of these guys. I want to say he's going to finish with like 20,000 career points, 10 or 15,000 career rebounds. He's been playing high-level basketball for a really long time. And so the question is, okay, he plugs into a very thin front court. Not a lot of great options there. I mean, Keita's played well. Garza, like you said, they've just been patching it together with duct tape. So now they got a real player. Is he going to be able to hold up defensively in the playoffs? We've never seen it. It's been 14, 15 years. So it's kind of a prove-it opportunity for him. But if you're him, what would you rather do? Waste another season with the Chicago Bulls in the play-in tournament? You're probably going out before you even make it to the playoffs. Or you put on that green jersey and you get to take a shot. I mean, he's probably the most motivated guy coming out of this trade deadline, because he's thinking, I might actually win something for once. This is going to be great. All those years toiling in obscurity in Orlando and Chicago, and now you're on the big green machine, right?
100%. You're seeing an awful lot of awful lot of banners in the rafters there, unlike anywhere else, except, of course, your Lakers. But
the worst part about getting traded to the Celtics is that all the good numbers are taken, So you got to start picking weird numbers. That's the only downside when you get traded to the Celtics, is you look up and you're like, oh, I wanted that one. Oh, that's Bill Russell. Oh, Heisen. Okay.
You're not going there. You're not. There's way too many legends up in the rafters.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Built for real-life confidence. Visit Subaru.ca.
When you hit the ice, it's all about you and your skates. The stride, the feel, the glide, the power, the performance. Why trust your skates to a grinding machine, or even worse, a tournament parent in a parking lot? At Aligned Custom Skate Performance in Sherwood Park, the art of skate fitting and sharpening is customized to the athlete.
Aligned Custom Skate Performance, where precision meets passion. Oh.
Visit AlignedSkate.com to learn more.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
This month in Sports History Moment is brought to you by Discount Diesel Parts.
February 10th, 1990. Boxing's upset of the century takes place in Tokyo. Journeyman Buster Douglas, a 42-1 underdog, knocks out Iron Mike Tyson in the 10th round. Tyson had been considered invincible, with 33 knockouts in his 37 victories. I wasn't afraid of the man, Douglas says. I'm only afraid of God.
Hi, folks. This is Big Al from Discount Diesel Parts. With over 70 years' experience, Interstate McBee is a leader in the heavy-duty diesel engine parts industry. And as an authorized dealer for over 20 years, we've been serving customers with those high-quality parts. Gasket kits, water and oil pumps, turbos, fuel injectors, heads, in-frame kits, and at a great price, too. Reach us at discountdiesel.ca and know that Discount Diesel's got the parts to get it done.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry. We did it.
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Washington continues to fascinate me again because they kind of fit the mold that you just described. They keep shuffling the deck. They do have some good young pieces now. The thing I like about them, and that's not a word that gets attached to the Washington franchise often, is like anything they do. But what I do like about them is they're trying hard. Like they really are trying hard to build something. And starting from way less than nothing when they took over.
Well, so, they've got some young guys coming along. Alex Sarr and Keyshawn George, those feel like those guys could be keepers, right? But you know how it goes. It takes a few years to really build a player, right? And is Alex Sarr going to be an all-star candidate next year? He could be, but this year he's not quite ready yet. Is Keyshawn George going to be, a lead ball handler on a good team? Maybe, but he's not there yet, right? Trey Johnson, rookie, is he going to be a good player? It looks like it, but not quite, consistently there night in, night out in a rookie year. And that's okay. I mean, there's only a few, Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple, who are going to be able to do that right out of the gate. VJ Edgecombe, right? But not everybody's going to hit the ground running like that. What's interesting with Washington's gambles on Trae Young and Anthony Davis, are they there as foundational players like their names would suggest, or are they there more almost in like a rehabilitation assignment mode, right? Where, again, Washington is a very cheap roster, so they have the flexibility to bring these guys in. Do they stay 1 year? They wind up getting traded. Maybe their value improves. Do they sign a short-term contract extension? Maybe they're there for a couple years, and then they're on to their next home. Well, we've seen in this group, the front office for the Wizards, they cycled through like Westbrook, they cycled through Beal, they cycled through. Chris Paul wasn't even there, but he was in one of the trades. They
Chris
cycled
Paul's
through.
been on every team this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly right. They cycled through Jordan Poole, Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, CJ McCollum. That's all just in the last couple of years. And so people are saying, well, maybe they're trying to put together this great inside-outside pairing with Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Maybe, or maybe they're just, kind of parking their contracts for a year, hoping that the value improves and they can turn around and maybe get a couple extra picks out of it if they trade them down the road. I think, it's open to interpretation exactly what role those guys are going to have longer term. If I had to guess, I don't think Anthony Davis is going to be a Wizard very long. I would think that this is more about he had to get out of Dallas. Nobody's going to follow in Luka's shoes. It was just way too toxic. So he finds a change of scenery, and maybe Washington finds a way to benefit down the road. I do think Washington is still committed to its youth movement, though. People are going to look at Trae Young and Anthony Davis and say, well, they're giving up on it. No, they're not. These young guys are still the priority. It's just that, they're so bad, every little bit helps. And, they play positions of need as well. Trae Young, they don't have a lead ball handler, so that's fine for him. Anthony Davis, they don't really have a positional conflict there. Like, they got room in their front court. He can play side by side with Sarr. That's actually a pretty nice defensive pairing. So it'll be interesting to watch if they can put all these pieces together. But they did surprise everybody by making these big swing trades, because people are just thinking, again, oh, that's a bad team. They're probably going to be sellers. They're not going to be buyers. But it's a new market. It's not about good teams and bad teams. It's about expensive teams and cheap rosters. That's how we have to look at this midseason stuff now.
Unfortunately, Ben, I've got to run off now, and I apologize because I got our conversation started late, and I want to go on for another hour. The All-Star team.
Yeah.
You mentioned White as an exclusion. Any others that jump off the page? It was Kawhi. Does Kawhi deserve to be an All-Star this year? I think
Kawhi got snubbed, but then he was named by Adam Silver as like an extra replacement because they had to balance these rosters for this USA versus the World game. So that one got worked out. The next guy up on my list would be Şengün. So if Giannis or one of these other international players can't play, maybe you could plug in Şengün. He's had a good year. He hasn't had a great year, but Houston's been winning. He's good. He's a good player, solid. He's got the numbers to be up in that top mix. And so I did feel like he got overlooked a little bit. My biggest surprise, LeBron made the cut. I don't know. I don't know. And it was interesting because he didn't do very well in the fan vote. He didn't do very well in the media vote. He didn't do very well in the player vote, but then the coaches came through for the reserves and they put him on there. I get giving him the respect. I understand it. If it's just going to be a dedicated LeBron spot for all of eternity, I understand that too. But if we're going on pure merit, I do think there were some other players, more deserving.
I watched the game last night. Reeves was fantastic. Very concerning. Very concerning about Luka. Let's hope this isn't. That was an ugly wince that Luka had when it happened. It was one of those that you go, ooh, that looked like that really, really hurt, and is really not good. But LeBron wasn't very good. And look, what I'm seeing now in LeBron, which I find to be kind of interesting, Ben, is one of he's unbelievable for his age, but he more often now gets himself, it seems like, trying to go too fast for what he's able to, that he used to be able to do, that he can't do, even though he's trying to do as fast as he used to be able to do it, if that makes any sense at all. But he's making big mistakes in transition that he never used to make, where he's trying to run too fast and do too much, and it just literally gets away from him.
You hit the nail on the head. It is one of the easiest ways to see the age catching up with him. When he's in transition, he's looser with the turnovers, looser with the handle, and then he doesn't always have the lift on the layups, the running layups, and he'll start to smoke layups, off the backboard, off the front rim, and it starts to feel a little bit like Westbrook. It's like, wait a minute, this is the guy who used to dunk everything in transition, or at the very least it'd be a smooth and one foul. Look, there's still a lot of good game in LeBron too. I'm not trying to denigrate him, but the All-Star standard is high, and I just don't think, because of his health, his defense has really lapsed as well. They play a lot of zone now, which I think is actually a really smart move from JJ. If you have to hide a bad defender in the NBA, the way everybody switches everything, it is a lot easier to hide them in a zone than it is into man-to-man, because especially in the playoffs, they're just going to hunt you, right? They're going right after Luka, right after Mike Conley, whoever that week, Trae Young, whoever that guy might be, they're just going to feast on him. You sit back in a zone, it's like, all right, well, you better make a three-pointer over the top, or you better have somebody who knows how to facilitate in the middle of the zone. Otherwise, we can hide our weak link. So I think it's smart from JJ to do it that way. But yeah, LeBron faces a decision here. Is this it? There's kind of been some rumors both ways. He's got some cryptic comments where it kind of feels like maybe this is the last time through. And then you flip it and there's rumors, well, maybe he would do a last run with Cleveland, So he always keeps us guessing. But I think the end is getting closer. I guess I put it that way.
It is. He's played with his son. He's accomplished, pretty much everything a player can accomplish, even though he is still the target of a lot of people that aren't huge LeBron fans. But you cannot argue with his body of work. It's one of the greatest bodies of work of all time. But you're right. It's on the horizon. It's just a question of when he wants to pull the plug. So, well, Ben, thank you for this. It's been great talking with you again. I look forward to talking again real soon. Ben Golliver, longtime Washington Post, Sports Illustrated, one of the best, if not the best, writing about the NBA. Keep looking for Ben's columns. And Ben, thank you so much for joining me today.
Always a pleasure. Take care.
All right. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir. This has been the Deep Dive. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440, powered by Subaru. Safety, reliability, and uncommon value. Visit Subaru.ca.
February is full-on sports action at Selly's Sports Bar and Lounge. Catch the biggest four-down football game of the year on Sunday, February 8th. Plus a pretty big winter sports event. Go Canada! Not a bad seat in the house. Tons of big screens. And Selly's menu is awesome. Small bites and big bites. Game night food and drink features. Dig in and cheer loudly at Selly's. At all 3 Century Casino locations. Edmonton, St. Albert, and Century Mile.
Every day is game day at Century Casino.
When your driveway's covered in snow, Toro and the Lawnmower Hospital have you covered. Toro's gas or battery-powered single-stage power clear snowblowers make it easy to clear right down to the concrete with incredible Toro-powered Propel technology. Face the next snow day without fear, thanks to Toro and the Lawnmower Hospital. Visit lawnmowerhospital.com.
The Lawnmower Hospital.
If you're without personal health insurance benefits from your employer and are self-employed or retiring, contact Innovative Benefits. Innovative Benefits helps break down personal health plans to put you in the driver's seat and reduce your net cost. They'll help identify the best plan for you and your family so you can pay for what you do use and look how to reduce what you don't use. Don't be left out in the cold. Understand all your options with Innovative Benefits. For more information, visit innovativebenefits.ca today.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
Sports 1440 is proud to sponsor the 4th annual Ben Stelter Memorial Hockey Tournament, February 12th to 15th at Kinsman Twin Arenas. Nearly 50 teams from across the region and the first ever women's division. A large 50-50 draw, raffle, and on-site silent auction featuring autographed Oilers jerseys, a signed Connor McDavid stick, and rare and unique autographed items from Hockey Canada. Come out, cheer on the players, and help support a great cause, with all proceeds directly supporting the Ben Stelter Foundation. More at sports1440.ca.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry. We did it.
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
The Young Rascals, our last of our 1968 songs. Now, the Rascals, the first time I saw them was on the Ed Sullivan Show. And their shtick was, and back then, especially with bands, they really had a shtick with the outfits that they'd sometimes wear and the way they dressed for the image they wanted to portray. And with the Rascals, they called themselves at that time the Young Rascals. They dressed up like little kids. They were dressed like in shorts with long socks and these little goofy beanie hats on. that was the way they wanted to impress people. But man, they had 3 or 4 just great songs. And People Gotta Be Free from 1968. You can see my Paul's Picks 1968 Billboard Top 100 on my X account that I sent out yesterday. And there's some just fantastic music from that particular year. Josh, poll update. Where did our wise, intelligent listeners come in on who benefited the most from the trade?
Yeah, poll update. It is it's our first clean sweep. It's the Cavaliers. Everyone says the
fantastic.
Cavaliers are the big winners.
Smart group. And just like we talked about before, there's lots of reasons for that. And so it's going to be it's not a seismic shift like Giannis going somewhere, but it's a big shift. I talk about James Harden in my blog about 4 teams in 6 years. This is his next Disco Hall. Hopefully he can bring the Cavs back, though, to relevance, which they were coming back to anyway in the Eastern Conference. But I'm really hoping that he will make a difference there. NBA legend, we had one nomination that I, in particular, got very, very excited about, Josh.
Yeah, you did. I said the name, and you're like, oh, that's the pick.
Yeah, regardless of who else came in, and thank you to everybody who put their names forward, but we're going to go today with Fred Brown. Most people probably don't know who Fred Brown was. Freddie Brown, downtown Freddie Brown, played for the University of Iowa. He was a long-range shooter in an era without the three-point line and without the shot clock. But he played an unbelievable game of deep shooting. Like I said, at a time when deep shooting wasn't particularly valued or looked for. But Fred Brown, downtown Freddie Brown, had a range that if he played in the modern era, he would be one of the great three-point shooters. I'm not saying he'd rival Steph Curry, but he had Steph Curry's range. at a time when it didn't matter whether you were a foot from the basket or 40 feet from the basket in terms of the number of points that your team got. But downtown Freddie Brown was a phenomenal player. He won an NBA championship in 1978 with the Seattle Supersonics. He played, like I said, for the University of Iowa, and he was an instrumental player in one of the greatest college basketball games I ever saw. And that was a first-round NCAA March Madness game in 1969. I'm pretty sure it was 1969. John Johnson, who went on and had a great career for the Cleveland Cavaliers, was also a star for a University of Iowa team, and they went up against the Jacksonville University team with a Hall of Famer named Artis Gilmore. Artis Gilmore, for people who aren't familiar with him, was a 7'2" or so center, played in the ABA for the Kentucky Colonels, won ABA championships, went on to a great career primarily with Chicago when he came to the NBA, when the ABA and the NBA merged. But Freddie Brown and John Johnson and the Hawkeyes squared off against Artis Gilmore at 7'2", Pembroke Burrows III at 7 feet in this classic matchup. So get this, Josh. No shot clock, no three-point line, 104 to 103. Jacksonville won.
That's unreal.
It is.
Oh man, I can't really fathom that, because the shot clock is made to make the game faster and really run those scores up. And the fact that they're able to do that with just 2s and 1s, essentially with free throws, is unreal to me.
And it was dynamic. It was exciting. And of course, whenever you watch old basketball footage from eras and decades gone by, you look at it and go, wow, those guys aren't that good. They were that good. And in that era, they were fantastic. So downtown Freddie Brown, my hat tipped off to you. Who was the excellent listener who put that forward?
That's from Ryan. Seems like he's been a long time listener to the station, but it's his first text in 2 years. So shout out to Ryan.
Ryan, you are the man, and we will get your information. We need to get your size, and I'll get a Hoop City t-shirt out to you. But thank you for that. The privilege of talking about downtown Freddie Brown. And again, what I always refer to, because we were laughing off air about, comments that have been made about players from past eras, and J.J. Redick's derogatory comment about players from the bygone areas from the 50s, were plumbers and firemen. The guys that, he's a great player, great coach, and he's an idiot for having said that. I take great offense at that comment, because when you look at Bob Cousy, could he play today? Absolutely not. But that's never been the point. Bob, the reason players handle the ball today and make a lot of the passes that they make today is because that's what Bob Cousy started. And just it goes with Freddie Brown as well. He started demonstrating what range possibilities were, taking shots from depth and distances that nobody else was at that time. So I love having these legends being brought forward and the opportunity to talk about them a bit. So let's go 3 from deep. We're gonna go through these really quickly.
Yeah, we'll go through that really quick. I do have one more text here from again, friend of the station, Tiger.
Hey, Tiger.
Says, Paul, my son had some training with a really great man in Calgary, John Hedgewood. Do you know John Hedgewood?
I do. John Hegwood is it's Hegwood, John.
Oh, Hegwood. My apologies.
That's okay. He's an American. He played at the University of San Francisco. John has run a real good, very successful basketball program in Calgary for a long time. John is intense. I'm sure your son experienced that. So yes, John Hegwood has done a lot of great things for the basketball community in Calgary.
All right, 3 from deep, +1. Number 1, the WNBA continues to flounder in their negotiations to get a collective bargaining deal done. Is this management, players, or both?
I think it's obvious it's both. Management has been inept in their ability to get a coherent message across to the players, who are inept at understanding what this is doing to I think the luster of their league. I hear comments like this is insulting in terms of the offers that are being presented, expecting things that aren't really realistic to expect yet. The rise of women's sport, thank you, Caitlin Clark, has been monumental over the past couple of years. But you can't get ahead of yourself in terms of what is going to be paid until you actually generate the revenue to pay it. And as far as they are coming, and that the league, the WNBA and women's basketball has come, and it has come a mile, that's great. But you're not there yet. It's not on par because the money's not on par. So those parties, the parties, had better settle soon so they don't screw the season up over silly negotiations. It's going to get better. It's getting better. People are going to get paid more. But don't get ahead of yourself and don't kill the goose that laid the golden egg.
Fair enough. All right, number 2. The biggest names in the trade world did not move. Are Giannis and Ja Morant going to be moved in the offseason? And if so, what will teams need to give up to get them?
Okay, yes, they're both going to be gone in the offseason. They're both going to be in different cities next year. My guess is for Giannis, the team that gets him will have to give up a lot. Maybe not as much as they would have given up 5 years ago, but they're still going to have to give up meaningful present-day assets and draft picks to get Giannis. Ja Morant, I think the Stingers could pick him up right now. I think if we had the money, we could get Ja, because Ja Morant is just not a desirable commodity. He's injury-prone. He's very expensive. And he has been nothing but trouble for the organization. And so I think his stock is so low, and it's a combination of things. It's unfortunate, and I feel for him that he's had to battle through these injuries. But the combination of the change in the way the NBA is run, as Ben Golliver was pointing out, it's no longer acquiring talent. It's now managing your business so that it's affordable to build your talent up and to be able to be competitive based on the numbers. And that's where Ja Morant is no longer a high-value commodity, because he's not the player, and Josh, you said this in when we were off air, he's not the player he was 2 years ago. But he's still very good, but he's not worth the money he's being paid, and he's a big question mark in terms of what he's going to bring to your organization.
Couldn't agree more. As Brand Windhorst put it, negative value.
Negative value.
Yeah.
Yes.
Number 3. The Raptors added some size and saved some cap room. Was that enough for the team?
No, it wasn't, but maybe it wasn't the worst move either. I wanted, and I know I've said before, I really wanted them to make a run at Sabonis, but he's a problem as well, because he is now becoming and staying injured more often and for longer stretches of time. So while it's a nice thought, what they would have had to give up to get a player like that, whose health is also questionable, as is the ongoing back problems that Jakob Poeltl is having. So they got some size. The kid that they picked up from Golden State, he's okay. So he's going to give him, I think, some length. He'll be able to change some shots. He's not going to be a difference maker, but it'll be better than having Murray Boyles having to start at the post, in my opinion. And the fact that they now will have Quickly, and if Quickly and RJ can stay healthy for the remainder of the season, along with the outstanding play of Ingram on offense and Scotty Barnes on both sides of the ball, I think the Raptors are positioned to make a nice season out of this, and to far exceed what we all thought that they were capable of. So I think Bobby Webster took a page from Masai Ujiri's playbook and just said, let's stay the course, because to do something dramatic right now without really seeing how good this team can be, this team has enough talent to invest the rest of the season in. So let's see how they go for the rest of the year, and then we'll see if Raptors management will want to do something a little more dramatic in the offseason.
Great points all the way around. And one, All-Star Weekend next weekend. Do you care?
Not at all. I could care. The only thing I care about in the All-Star Weekend is the 3-point shootout. That literally is all I care about. The slam dunk competition since the Aaron Gordon, who's the
dunk contest? Zach LaVine.
Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Since then, they are just atrocious.
10 years ago, by the way.
10 years ago. And when I say that, I have to say this is a guy who could never jump. I admire their athleticism. I admire their creativity. But honest to God, it is just dreadful to watch for me. And anyway, 3-point competition, true competition. I wish they still did the men's and women's. I love the one between Curry and
Sabrina Ionescu.
Ionescu. I'd love to see that again. But as far as the All-Star game, I can't stand it. It's just awful basketball to watch. But hey, that's just me. The sound in the background is David's song, written and performed by my son Ben and his band, Worst Days Down, in tribute to David Finkelman, whose life was tragically taken from him by a careless driver at an intersection, not paying attention to streetlights properly, devastating to his family. We lost Ben almost 3 years ago, devastating to our family. But in honoring his life and in carrying our lives forward, I always try to remind ourselves to be kind to each other, be kind to ourselves, be kind to those that you care about and that you love, and make sure you tell those that you love them, but also think the best of others and be kind to your fellow human being. That was something Ben embodied in his day-to-day life. Ben was legendary for being kind to those less fortunate. So I want to just pass that on to you. Bear that in mind, because those are the most important things in life. Basketball, it's great. It's a game. Life is different. People you love are different. Josh, thank you so much for today.
Always happy to do it, Paul. Looking forward to next week already.
Likewise as well. And to all of you out there, I hope your basketball IQ went up today. Thanks to Doug McLean, Ben Golliver for being with us. Looking forward to next week, just as Josh is, to bring you more hoops. Great games, by the way. Duke, North Carolina today. Arizona plays Kansas on Monday. Illinois, who's really good, playing Michigan State today. Paul's playlist online. My blog's online as well. Have a great week on and off the court. You've been listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. The perfect choice for Alberta's challenging weather and road conditions. Visit Subaru.ca.
Winter snow and ice are nothing to fear when the Lawnmower Hospital's in your corner. Keep pathways clear of snow with the Echo PB770T backpack blower. Or go even bigger with the huge PB9010T. Right now, buy some